What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. And today, what I have for you guys is a compilation of the videos of issues 1 to 5 of Amotekun into a long form video. So, if you're just stumbling upon this video for the first time, welcome. And if you've seen the other parts of the video on Amotekun and you're yet to catch up on the full story, this video is also for you. So, without further ado, let's get into Amotekun's story. The story opens up with a dream sequence. We see our main character, Akoni, waking up from sleep and standing in front of a mirror. In the reflection of the mirror, he sees a different wild version of himself, but he doesn't understand what he's seeing. As he tries to make sense of it, he begs to see the reflection again. Whatever triggered this reaction, he wants proof of it. But before he can process anything further, a massive leopard-like entity manifests and attacks him. Then we cut away to another location, which is Lagos, Nigeria, and that is the present. Akoni jolts awake from his chair, disoriented and clearly shaken by the dream he just had. Across the room, animals are agitated in their cages. Whatever just happened, it affected them too. One of his colleagues enters. It's Rennie, his girlfriend. She demands an explanation for the commotion coming from the pets. He admits he doesn't have one. He sat down briefly, closed his eyes, and woke up to the chaos. He's visibly unsettled and doesn't want to leave the animals in a panicked state. Rennie tries to steady the situation, insisting that the animals will calm down. With traffic already building outside, she urges him to leave so they can make it to their next engagement on time. We see the couple exiting the pet facility where they work. They are greeted by a staff member named Oyinda, who comments on their plans for the night. The couple exchange banters and the exchange is light, almost mundane. Oyinda sends them off with a polite farewell as they exit the building. Back at the reception, we see Oyinda answering a call. He informs the person on the other end that there's a problem with the asset, even though he's scheduled to carry out a mission at the banquet. The call reveals that Akoni is actually an undercover for a shadow organization. Oyinda expresses her concern that he has been undercover for too long, but the response on the other end is firm. It doesn't matter. The operation needs to proceed as planned. Tomorrow, he eliminates his target. The next scene opens at a small airstrip. A cargo plane is being prepared for departure as workers move equipment across the tarmac. Akoni is meeting one of his friends, Larry. Larry thanks him for coming on such a short notice, and we see both men exchange more pleasantries along the way. Nearby, we see a couple of sedated lions are being moved to a plane. Larry remarks on the growing issue of exotic animals in the country, and Akoni responds that they'll do better in the wild actually. He hopes they sleep through the journey anyways because it's going to be a long trip. In the next scene, the two men are on the airplane already and they are chatting casually, but Akoni doesn't seem to be too interested in Larry's tales. Akoni reminds him that the whole reason he was there was to administer the sedatives to the lion. If Larry could handle it himself, there was no need to call him, and Larry admits that he needed the company, and he adds that the lion had been asleep since the pickup. Almost as if one of the lions was waiting for him to complete his sentence, one of them jolts awake. The lion roars violently, and we see both men go into a panic mode in the cabin. Akoni reacts fast. Now that the lion is fully awake and ready to pounce, he steps up to the situation and uses one of his abilities. We see his eyes glow green as we saw earlier at the start of the comic, and he speaks to the lion to calm it. The lion actually falls under his command, surprisingly. He injects the lion, putting it back to sleep. He tells the animal quietly that freedom will come soon. Back in the cockpit, the tension breaks. Larry laughs it off, calling the moment stressful. The rest of their conversation on the journey reveals that Akoni is tensed about the upcoming party, knowing that the Black Star and Rainey's dad will be in attendance. But Larry reassures him everything will be fine. He's still the Akoni everyone loves and trusts. Akoni thanks him for the reassurance and we see the page come to an end. The story shifts into another dream sequence. We are taken to a fortified compound identified as a Fang safe house. The location is heavily guarded. Armed personnel patrol the compound while two guards overlook the perimeter from their watchtowers. Inside the house, we see a couple putting their boy to sleep, and the boy is tagged as Bautujin. This means a legendary were hyena from Canary mythology. Outside, we see one of the guards overlooking the compound catching a whiff of something he can't see yet. These guards are tagged as Asambosam, and it means a vampire-like man-eating monster from Arcane folklore, originating from Ghana and Ivory Coast and Togo. Suddenly, the two guards overlooking the compound are taken out before they can raise the alarm. It's Amotekun. The guards in the compound recognize them. He moves quickly, closing the distance and disabling threats with precision. One of the guards shouts for help, calling on Oshoshi to save them, but it's already too late. Another guard recognizes what's happening and calls him a traitor. Amotekun doesn't respond and makes quick work of him. Inside the chaos, the couple notice they've been found by what they call the Arcane. They remind the boy of what they taught him about battle: to fight to the end, to be brave, to never allow himself to be a slave to misfortune. Inside the compound, the fight escalates. Amotekun clashes with more guards, but they are no match. The resistance weakens. One by one, they all fall. One of the dying guards confronts him and mocks him, questioning whether he even remembers who he used to be or how long he has been serving the human interests. Without giving any answer, his head is slashed clean off with a single swipe from Amotekun's claw. After taking out the last guard in the compound, Amotekun proceeds to breach into the house, and we see the couple from earlier now transform into were creatures themselves, and they are ready for battle. But Amotekun came prepared and quickly incapacitates them with a gas. They're surprised they will use such tactics against them instead of fighting head on. He then executes the two of them. Amotekun enters the room where the boy is kept, and we see him towering over the boy. The dream sequence ends at this point. Akoni jolts awake, breathing heavily, drenched in sweat. His attention drifts to the television playing in the background nearby. A news report fills the room. It's Black Star, Africa's most celebrated super soldier. He has been spotted stopping an armed robbery at Lekki Mall. The report explains that he's currently stationed in Nigeria on a training mission and is working closely with the government heroes to strengthen ties across the continent. The news footage shows Black Star dismantling the attacker with ease. He's confident, composed, and admired. Akoni calls him a show-off. Akoni then moves through the house slowly, clearly exhausted. He rubs his head as he comes down the stairs, frustrated that the nightmares won't stop. He wonders quietly when all of this is going to end. In the kitchen, Rennie greets him and reminds him that he's opening up the facility this week and he needs to be up early. Akoni agrees, promising to be sharper going forward. Rennie notices how sweaty he is and calls him out on it. He admits he's had another nightmare, brushing it off with humor, but the strain is quite obvious. They share a quiet moment together. Rennie jokes about him watching too many romantic movies, and Akoni pushes back gently, telling her the only dream he needs is right now in front of him. Quite a slick man anyway. As they continue with their morning routine, Akoni suggests skipping the party later that night. He admits he's tired, not just physically but mentally. Rennie listens, but she's unconvinced. Later that night, the city skyline is glowing with lights and a buzzing atmosphere. It's the banquet location. Akoni and Rennie arrives at the gala, dressed up for the occasion. Rennie assures Akoni, but is nervous, and there's no backing out of this now. Then Akoni sees him, Rennie's ex, and it's also Black Star. He's conversing with some dignitaries, and we see a man with some scars on his face. He's wearing a black suit and is beside them. For now, let's call him Scarface. Black Star spots Akoni and Rennie and approaches them. He greets Rennie first warmly, then we see him turn to Akoni, recognizing him instantly. The exchange is polite, formal, and quite measured. Both men shake hands and smiling for appearance. As they separate, Akoni asks Rennie why things ended between her and Black Star. Rennie answers plainly, Black Star loved the job more than he loved her. Before the moment can linger, Rennie's father arrives. The mood shifts again. He embraces his daughter and is introduced to Akoni. The exchange is friendly, teasing and approving. and the conversation continues. Rennie's father says there are some people you like his daughter to meet. We then get to see the people he's talking about. It's Scarface, some high-ranking officer, and Blackstar, and some other dignitaries. Scarface is trying to convince them that Gaff needs more supernatural warriors. They are natural born killers, unlike the superheroes. He believes in using every weapon in their arsenal to protect the interest of their people. One of the general things this is something they should consider, but Blackstar is unsure how he feels about having Beast as comrades. From the conversation, it's clear that there are opposing and supporting opinions on the inclusion of supernatural warriors in the security and armed forces. Rennie is also part of the conversation, and she feels some people are incapable of changing. As the conversation lingers on, the other men eventually give Rennie and Blackstar some room. Their conversation is quieter, more personal even. He asks if she's happy, and she admits that she is. Blackstar acknowledges his mistake and also apologizes for how things ended between them and for choosing his job over her. Rini accepts the apology, and Blackstar wishes they can continue being friends, and Rini welcomes this idea. Across the room, Akoni is enjoying the party, and we see him at the buffet table ready to get some food. He is approached by Scarface. Akoni comments that he looked familiar, but Scarface says it's odd the weather in Accra is nice this time of the year, and Akoni should go to the beach there sometime. Quite some set of weird lines to say, but they aren't just any lines. It's an activation word for him to activate. Akoni feels a sharp pain run through him. His teeth sharpen, his eyes glow green. The beast stares beneath the suit. He turns away before anyone notices. Behind him, Rainy follows completely unaware of the situation. Something inside Akoni finally breaks. The restraint is gone. He roars awake. He's tagged Amotekun, and Amotekun means leopard in Yoruba language. In a single violent surge, he lunges forward, eyes glowing, teeth bared. The room erupts into panic as the guests scatter. Their scream fills the room with shock. Blackstar and another superhero spring into action almost immediately, ready to face the threat. They move to intercept him, trying to contain the situation before it turns catastrophic. But Akoni isn't himself anymore. He's operating based on instincts right now, and is now Amotekun. They clash, and we are treated to a beautiful spread page of the fight scene. Akoni fights through them, and faster and more vicious than they expected. They are no match for him at this point. Blackstar and the other hero are left incapacitated in the end. Security rushed in, armed and desperate, but they are immediately outmatched. Akoni rips through them with ease and almost with no resistance. Barely aware of who is in front of him at this point, his gaze is now focused on just one target: Rainey's father. Larry steps in front of Rainey's dad to stop Akoni and calls out for him to snap out of it. Without hesitation, Akoni tears through both men mercilessly. Rainey can only watch and scream in horror, unable to make sense of what she's just witnessing. We see Scarface smirking as Akoni retrieves a briefcase from underneath one of the tables. He crashes through one of the windows and escapes into the night. The situation escalates into the rain-soaked streets of Lagos. Civilians are fleeing as the police units flood the area, weapons raised, trying to contain a situation that is already out of control. We see one of the police units getting picked from the shadows. It's Amotekun. He moves fast, vanishing into the night before anyone can stop him again, while also calling for an extraction. Moments later, we see him standing alone on a rooftop, fully transformed, fully aware. Issue 1 ends with Amotekun overlooking the skyline with a billboard saying, "Be yourself," and a police craft in the air patrolling the area in search of him. Issue 2. Our story continues with a flashback to the Middle Ages within the Oyo Empire. A heavy rainstorm pours down over an ongoing battle where a group of soldiers is being overwhelmed by an enemy force. The tide of the battle turns instantly when two warriors wearing leopard-inspired masks and armor leap into the fray. They engage the enemy with brutal efficiency, decimating the opposing ranks. The enemy soldiers are visibly terrified, recognizing them by their name. It's the Amotekun. Following the slaughter, the warriors remove their masks to survey the aftermath of the battle. And we see that Akoni is one of these masked warriors. One of the warriors expresses disgust, referring to those they just fought as animals. Akoni's comrade then questions why they continue to serve humanity. Akoni reminds him that it is the will of the Orishas for them to be defenders of humanity. Despite a sense of foreboding that this sacred crusade will lead to more pain, Akoni concludes that they are honor bound by duty. The scene transitions to a heavily fortified Arcane base in Ondo State. Scientists and armed guards navigate a floor filled with containment units, and a group of supernatural super soldiers are being marched away. Two scientists are discussing the extreme security measures required for their assets, and they express fear over what might happen if one of these creatures were to break free of their mind control. Both men clearly don't feel safe around the creatures from this conversation. On the next page, we see Scarface again. This time, it is revealed that he is the director of this facility, and we are going to learn much more about him later. But for now, is now the director. Standing beside him is a tall and imposing Baltojin called Bolaji. According to the director, Bolaji remains hungry and aggressive, barely contained by the facility's handlers, yet he may be the only one the director trusts. The director orders the defrosting of an Amotekun. It is revealed to be Akoni, who has been held in stasis since his extraction at the end of Issue 1. Upon waking up, Akoni is brought before the director and Bolaji. The director reveals that Bolaji has been working undercover within the supernatural community to track a group known as FANG. They are known as the First African Nocturnal Group. Bolaji has identified a new target, another Amotekun, operating as a so-called freedom fighter, though the director labels him a supernatural terrorist. The director then dismisses the scientist and everybody else, and he speaks privately with Bolaji. This conversation reveals a closer bond between them, one that feels almost like a father and son relationship. He tells Bolaji he is to join a mission with some superheroes the following day, and he must carry himself with respect and remember who he truly is while standing amongst them. Bolaji accepts the assignment. Later, Akoni undergoes a mental evaluation with the doctor. While he claims to feel nothing regarding his targets, a psychic resonance reveals his internal struggle. He admits to the doctor that the subservience drilled into him feels wrong and is caught between two worlds. He even confessed to having developed feelings for a member of the family of a past target while undercover. This was really his last target, and questioning how a monster like him could feel such things. He continues to be haunted by faint dreams of a great battle between other Amotekun and the Baltojins of the Arcane. Back in the streets of Victoria Island in Lagos, a man with glowing eyes and fangs is confronted by a group of thugs. This is Akoni's comrade from the flashback. After scaring them off, he is suddenly ambushed in an alleyway by none other than Akoni himself, and both men start to fight. The confrontation explodes out of the alley and into the streets. Akoni's comrade continues to defend himself, but has yet to realize he's fighting his old friend. They both display superhuman reflexes and strength, matching each other strike for strike. Eventually, the comrade gains the upper hand and manages to unmask Akoni. He is shocked and disarmed by this realization of who he's looking at. Before he can recover, he is struck down by Akoni, who does not recognize him. As his comrade lies in a pool of blood, something clicks inside Akoni. He is thrown into a repressed memory of the dying man before him, the two of them training together, sharing a drink, and finally a brief but pointed disagreement between them. Then Akoni's mind control is broken. The Arcane soldiers surrounding him notice the shift in his emotions immediately, and they have orders to take him out, but it's not going to go the way they planned because Akoni is now fully awake and ready. The story cuts back to the director, who is now briefing a room of military generals on what just happened with Akoni. The generals are visibly shaking. One even loses his stomach entirely. The revelation is there. They have a killing machine on the loose who knows exactly what they are and what they have been doing with him. None of them are safe, and they know this. So the director advises them to lock down the area where Akoni was last seen and deploy their men. The director will also be sending his own personnel to help contain the situation, because the last thing anyone wants right now is more monsters on the streets. We're taken to space just outside of Earth's atmosphere, where a spacecraft is hovering in silence. We are introduced to a new group, beings who appear lion-like in appearance. They haven't been named by the author just yet, so for now, we simply call them the lion types. Their armor bears a lion head crest, much like the crest we've seen with the other groups throughout this story. It is revealed that they are searching for someone on Earth, though they are yet to find this person. From what we can tell, three individuals or generals appear to lead this group. Issue 2 ends with all three of them gazing down at Earth, and the one on the right says they will find him soon. Issue 3 Issue 3 opens with the memory of Akoni and his comrade training in their youth. It is revealed that this comrade and Akoni are both brothers, and his name is Desola, his little brother. The training session ends when Akoni catches Desola in a powerful toss, slamming him to the ground. As the dust settles, Akoni stands tall, reaching down to Desola to pull him to his feet. Desola notes that it's never a fair fight against Akoni. Akoni responds is seasoned with hard reality of their world. No such thing as a fair fight in this life. Desola brushes it off with a smirk, calling him half-brother, which earns him a playful reprimand. The scene ends on a rare moment of pure warmth, the two of them locked in a hearty and laughing embrace. The piece of the memory is shattered as we swap back to the present. Akoni's face fills the frame with his features contorted in a mask pure of primal rage. His eyes glow with an eerie emerald light, and his teeth have sharpened into lethal fangs. With a guttural roar of "Come on," the repressed warrior is fully unleashed. And what follows is a whirlwind of absolute carnage. Akoni moves like a blow of green lightning through the alleyway, tearing through the Arcane soldier who was sent to contain him. He is no longer the controlled asset they remember, he's a force of nature. He shreds through armor and bones, leaving a trail of broken bones in his wake, and we're treated to a display of onslaught against the soldiers from Arcane. As the dust of the skirmish settles, Akon is confronted by a psychic apparition of Desola. The phantom chest cavity hollowed out by a grisly wound stares him down with the glowing green eyes. "You're not real," Akoni screams, but the spirit merely scoffs, reminding Akoni that he is the one who ended his life. Akoni desperately tries to claim it was an accident, swearing by Songo, but the spirit dismisses his denial as embarrassing. The apparition goods him, pointing to the pile of fresh corpses and claiming Akoni didn't kill for justice, but for his own love of blood and battle. When Akoni protests that he doesn't have all his memory and doesn't know how to be himself, the spirit cryptically responds, "Yes, you do." The narrative shifts back 6 years ago to a disagreement between Akoni and his brother. Desola warns that the director cannot be trusted, but Akoni defends his path, asking when he has ever led their people astray. The tension is palpable as Desola declares that Akoni's dedication to the cause is blinding him. Unable to reconcile their views, Desola says a final goodbye, walking away from his brother. Back in the present, Akoni stands alone on a rooftop overlooking the sprawling city, the apparition still looming over him. The spirit labels him an instrument of death, a reaper who is free to use his power. Akoni rejects this dark fate, insisting that he must learn restraint and be better, but the spirit mocks his resolve, asking why he is standing on a roof wishing the fall would kill him if he truly intended to improve. Akoni's mind then drifts to a painful memory of his recent undercover job where he met Rainy, posing as a medic at a military base. He treated a combat dog to get close to her and her father. Despite the mission, he truly loved her, but the memory ends in tragedy. He admits with a crushing guilt as we see Rainy weeping over her dad's dead body while Akoni flees into the night. Still reflecting on himself, we see an image of Akoni sitting atop a literal mountain of corpses, so high he cannot count them. He reflects on the innocent he was ordered to get close to, only to ruin their lives in the harshest ways possible. Staring at his own blood-stained claw, he asks the final desperate question: how can he ever come back from all the bad he has done? Suddenly the vision shifts. Rainy appears before him on the rooftop, a touch snapping him out of the darkness. She reminds him of a night they were harassed by the police, where Akoni felt small and powerless. He admits he was terrified they would hurt her. Down in the streets, the Arcane handlers are on the hunt, their hearts with a pack of massive genetically modified hyenas, their eyes glowing with a feral and red hunger. One of the soldiers notes that these assets have been given Akoni scent and are well trained for this specific field engagement. We see a crowd nearby and they are not welcoming to this new development in their streets. Now, back to Akoni. Rainy urges him not to let his past define him or his negative emotion blind him. She points to the suffering city and tells him he can change the narrative, take a leap of faith, and do something about it. At this point, the memory of Rainy is acting as a moral compass for Akoni. With a renewed sense of purpose, Akoni dives from the rooftop. He descends upon the hyenas, crushing one of the beasts as it was about to attack a helpless woman. He commands the crowd to find shelter as a mother cries out for her son. Akoni charges back into the fray, no longer a monster, but a defender protecting the boy from harm. As the beasts launch, Akoni meets them with the same brutal efficiency he once used to serve the director, but now with a different fire in his eyes. He intercepts a lunging hyena mid-air. He's no longer just a killing machine, he's a shield between monsters and the innocent. Now, back at the Arcane base, we see the two scientists from Helios celebrating their progress on the battlesuit they've been working on. While they celebrate and attempt to take a selfie, they are completely unaware of the assailants lurking in the shadows. It's the doctor from issue 2. She transforms and brutally mauls both scientists to death. As she transforms back to her human form, she is approached by Bolaji and two other Baltujins. Bolaji referred to her as an Obayifo, stating that she has finally shown herself. This confirms that she is a vampire and witch-like mythology creature. She replies that it's about time she stepped into the light. Bolaji agrees, though something feels off about his response. Then, with a surprise attack, Bolaji swiftly dispatches the two other Baltujins with ease. It is revealed that the two of them have been working together undercover, having infiltrated the Arcane in order to help Akoni. The doctor says they need to split up to find him, but before they can move, they are quickly surrounded by Arcane soldiers ready to detain them. They are not going down without a fight, obviously. We cut back to space, where the lion types from the end of issue 2 are observing Akoni. One of the general remarks that they should bring him in, but another argues they need to study him further to be sure he's the one they're looking for. The general on the left remarks reference to someone in exile, saying he hopes that coward does not return for their sakes. The other leader shuts down the conversation, saying the subject is not to be raised again. Issue 3 ends as the two generals approach a leopard beast. They call him the Seeker. They tell him they are in need of more conscripts from Earth. The Seeker replies with a grin that he was already getting bored. Issue 4 Issue 4 opens in a quiet cemetery. The city skyline standing tall in the distance while rows of graves stretch across the grass. A lone hooded figure stands among them. It's Akoni. He kneels before one of the graves and is full of regret. He admits that no apology could ever make up for what he did that night, but he refuses to give up. He promised to keep trying to be better because he believes the one buried here is still watching him. As he rises to his feet, we learn the name on the grave. It's Larry. He says that he can never be again the Akoni Larry knew and loved, but he vows to be something better than what he was forced to be. The scene then shifts to Lekki, where Akoni walks through a busy street market. He stops at the meat store. The vendor thanks him for coming. Akoni is here to render veterinary help to the meat purchased dog. We see his boys warming up to Akoni as they thank him and call him their hero after patching up their dog. One of them hugs him tightly and tells him he wants to grow up to be just like him. The words hit harder than expected. He quietly replies, maybe not just like him. Then we shift to a night scene where Akon is walking through a dark alley. He gets a whiff of something in the air. His eyes starts to glow and there's something primal rising inside of him. His fang emerges. He launches forward towards the looming figure. It's Bolaji and he has found Akoni. Bolaji tries to speak, calling out to Akoni, but Akoni is already mid-attack, claws and fists colliding with brutal force. Akoni shouts that they sent him to kill his brother. Bolaji insists that he didn't know Akoni would actually kill him. That was never part of the plan. But seeing him now, Bolaji says he can't stop himself. He declares that today he takes his revenge. The fight turns vicious. Akoni tears into Bolaji's face, then drives forward with relentless blow as rain pours down around them. Bolaji retaliates, smashing Akoni back with a crushing strength. Bones and armor collide as the two monsters tear into each other. Their battle starts to spill into the open street, and neither of them is holding back at this point. The fight escalates brutally. Bolaji drives into Akoni with savage force, biting into his shoulder as Akoni counters with claws and fury. Each strike is fueled by rage and betrayal. The clash peaks as Akoni slams into Bolaji, but before he can strike the final blow, a voice cuts through the storm. A beam of dark energy crashes between them, forcing them apart as a new figure stands from above, suspended in a glow of violet power. It's Dr. Anandwa, the doctor from earlier in the last issue. She floats effortlessly in the rain, her presence calm but commanding. She tells Akoni that she understands his anger, but if he kills Balaji now, he will never forgive himself. Akoni snaps back immediately, furious at the interruption. He demands to know what she could possibly say that would change anything. Her answer is simple and devastating. She tells him he killed Balaji's family. The words hit like a physical blow. Akoni's expression hardens, but the truth has already cut deep. And suddenly, we are pulled into a memory where we see the young, terrified Balaji crouching in the corner of a room as Akoni storms inside. The boy charges at him in desperation, but Akoni is merciless. He grabs the child, lifts him, and the scene fractures into violence and destruction Akoni has left behind. We return to the present. The rain is still pouring, the weight of the past hanging all over them. Anandwa explains that she and Balaji orchestrated the encounter deliberately. They know Akoni was one of the strongest supernatural fighters alive, and their plan was to free him from control that bound him. Balaji adds that he's been watching Akoni for months, seeing him protect people, help the helpless, and fight on the side of good. And if Akoni believes he has become a hero, Balaji says he may just be lying to himself because they are both the same. They are men shaped by violence and they are monsters, and in the rain-soaked silence, that truth hangs heavier than any blow they exchanged. We transition to a safe house overlooking the city where Akoni, Balaji, and Anandwa regroup in the aftermath of the confrontation. Tension still hangs thick between them, but Anandwa wastes no time dwelling on it. She reminds them that while they are arguing, hundreds of supernatural remains enslaved under the director's control. Their real enemy is still out there. Akoni agrees reluctantly, setting aside his anger. Anandwa begins to form a plan, asking Balaji if it's possible for the three of them to take on the director's private residence. Balaji confirms it's possible, but only if they strike at night. And so, the operation begins. We cut to the director's compound, a sprawling estate crawling with monstrous guards, relentless and powerful but not unstoppable. Bolaji launches into the fight headfirst, crashing into the creatures with overwhelming force while Dr. Nandwa rains down dark energy from above. Their goal isn't to win the battle outright, but only to hold the defense long enough for Akoni to move. Akoni slips away from the chaos and approaches the compound from another direction, heading for the sewer entrance. But even here, the director has prepared defenses. Serpentine monsters rise from the water, bloodthirsty and nearly mindless, leaving only for the kill. Akoni charges straight into them, still flashes in the rain as he tears through the creatures with ruthless precision, each strike fueled by words still echoing in his mind. The scene shifts once more to an undisclosed location. We see the Seeker from the ending of Issue 3 surrounded by beasts. He battles them and cuts them down. He monologues. His voice echoes like a warning, explaining a warrior's pride can be both their greatest strength and their deepest flaw. If pride blinds you, it fills you with arrogance and the illusion of invisibility. But in any fight, there is always someone capable of bringing you down. The page ends on the Seeker's final words, "You serve my emperor." Now we shift back to the director's compound. The man himself is standing calmly before a large portrait of the generals we saw in outer space as the carnage unfolds outside of his window. As Bolaji and Dr. Anandwa clash with them in the rain, he reflects coldly that a peaceful world can only be born through war. Akoni finally bursts into his chamber and calls for the director, but he's not alone. The director has been expecting him, and he finally introduced himself as Oniju, and he asks Akoni if he has ever heard of the Ekunites. Akoni eyes close with anger as he demands to know what that has to do with him. Oniju answers that everything Akoni sees, everything he's become, was created by his father. Akoni snaps back immediately, shouting that he doesn't even know who his father is. Oniju then explains that Akoni's memory is fractured. He reveals that Akoni is far older than he realizes, that he may be one of the last Amotekun, and is only half of what he truly is. The revelation lands like a blow. Oniju further explains, declaring that Akoni is the son of an Orisha called Oshosi, the god of hunter and beast. He adds that Akoni is a demigod, one whose divine nature has been suppressed and siphoned away. He promises that if Akoni joins him, he can help restore everything that was taken. Akoni's fury only deepens. He demands to know why he should even trust a single word coming from Oniju, Oniju answers comes not in words. He shifts into a monstrous lion-like form, roaring with power. Oniju towers over Akoni and declares that he is their prince. Akoni lunges at him with a precise strike, but Oniju dodges away effortlessly. As both of them battle, Oniju reveals that he was sent by his father to create an army, to create more pawns to fund his madness while he searched for Akoni. He trained them all relentlessly and made them warriors. If anything, he feels he should be thanked. To him, they are a weapon. He believes they are clueless beings constantly looking for meaning in the world. And when he tried to put Akoni on the right path, but here he was, angry and still lost. He asked what Akoni is fighting for, and he responds that he fights for freedom. A pure and simple notion Oniju will never understand because he's a slave to his own greed. Oniju believes the only way for monsters to live in harmony with humans is through service. Before he concludes his speech, he gains the upper hand, and the power gap here is quite clear. Akoni is on his knees, bleeding, but he still has more fight in him. In a swift, Oniju lands a powerful blow that knocks Akoni out cold. Outside, Anando and Bolaji are still fighting the endless wave of monsters in the compound. They catch sight of what's going on inside and they know they need to intervene. Oniju walks over to Akoni's unconscious body, ready to land the final blow. But Bolaji is able to rescue Akoni in time with his jetpack, and he and Dr. Anandwa manages to escape as Oniju calls them cowards. Issue 4 ends with the three heroes escaping to live and fight another day. Issue 5. Issue 5 opens under a quiet night sky, far from the chaos. You're taken to Lekki Conservation Forest where two figures streak across the sky. Bolaji carries the unconscious Akoni while Dr. Anandwa flies beside them, scanning the horizon. They land among the ancient ruins. They made it out alive, but barely. Anandwa is still processing what they just saw. She asks Bolaji about the creature they encountered, the lion-like warrior that nearly tore them apart. Bolaji explains that the being wasn't just another supernatural, it was an Akonite, alien warriors who served under the Yoruba pantheon, being said to rival the Orishas themselves in strength. Bolaji is sure it's the director himself. As they move deeper into the ruins, Bolaji pieces together what this might mean. The Arcane must be building an army of Earth's strongest supernatural beings gathered for the Akonites. But why would such powerful creatures need help from humans? Only a grim realization. The Akonites are nearly extinct. They are kind ravaged by something called the Niki Nanka, which means if they are resurfacing now, they are desperate. By the way, the Niki Nanka is a frightening spirit from Gambia folklore. It's a sea spirit and a dragon-like creature. They stop beside an ancient statue, and Bolaji admits he's heard rumors of pools hidden beneath the ruins, sacred waters capable of accelerating healing. It's a long shot, but right now, it's the only one they have. Anandwa doesn't hesitate. She declares whatever chance this place is offering, she's taking it, because today, Akoni is not dying. She carries Akoni down into the ancient structure. Anandwa reflects on something Desola once told her. If anything ever happens to Akoni, this was the place she should bring him. So maybe this isn't just coincidence. Maybe Akoni was always meant to end up here. They reach a chamber where glowing green water fills a massive stone basin. Akoni is lowered into the pool, then Bolaji and Anandwa lower themselves into the pool as well, and they hope the healing factor from the pool heals them and rejuvenates them. As the Akoni body sinks into the healing waters, his mind drifts somewhere else. He awakens in a forest that feels real and yet unreal, a place that exists between worlds. Before Akoni can understand where he is, a voice calls out to him, deep, familiar, his father. The massive figure steps forward from the shadow, adorned with bone, gold, and power. Then Akoni freezes because he knows exactly who stands before him. It's his father, but his father doesn't celebrate. Instead, he reminds Akoni that this was always his choice. He chose to weaken himself, to close off his divinity. Akoni insists he did it to protect the people around him. But to his father, that was never protection, it was fear. His father grabs him and tells him it's time to become who he truly is. Akoni pleads with him to wait, but the vision doesn't soften. The forest dissolves into memories. Akoni remembers the life he once had, a family, a home, people who loved him. Then the moment everything broke, the moment he realized his power could destroy the very world he wanted to protect. So he limited himself. He hid from what he was. But as the memory shifts, we see the cost of that choice. friends lost, battlefield, a world that still burned. His father tells him something he can't ignore. Power isn't a curse, it's a burden, and the more the Orishas are tested, the stronger they become. Akoni wasn't meant to suppress what he is, he was meant to master it. Akoni stands in the forest again, this time calmer, more certain. His father tells him to learn to harness his power, to stop running from himself, to finally become the god he was born to be. Back in the ruins, the water begins to glow brighter. Bolaji and Anandua watches as Akoni rises from the pool, different, stronger, and changed. The hesitation that once haunted him is gone, and for the first time since we met him, Akoni looks like a man who understands exactly who he is. But while Akoni finds clarity, elsewhere, the war machine is already moving. We cut to the Arcane base under a heavy rain where the director is addressing West African military leaders. He's proud to announce that the partnership between their forces and a supernatural army is officially underway. Behind his words, we see what is assembled: battalions of were-hyenas and werewolves, platoons of vampires, creatures once feared now weaponized. All of them are preparing to be deployed across the region. Because in a world filled with supernatural threats, the director believes control is the only way to survive. Back at the ruins, Akoni launches into the air. Olaji and Anandwa follows close behind him. Where they are going, there's no time to explain, only time to act. In the next page, they descend like meteors on the Arcane base. Akoni raises his hand and releases a surge of energy. The supernatural soldiers around the compound freeze, then they collapse, their control shattered, their mind finally their own again. They look around in confusion, realizing they are free. This realization spreads through them like wildfire. In a blink of an eye, everything turns into chaos. Carnage ensues as they begin to attack the human soldiers around them. The base turns into a battlefield as the supernatural forces clash with the military. This is no longer a coordinated operation, it's a war zone. Amid the chaos, Oniju confronts Balaji. He mocks Balaji, claiming they could have ruled the world together, if not for Balaji's sentiments. But Balaji doesn't hesitate, he fights back. He says he chose vengeance instead, and leaves Akoni to face Oniju. Akoni lunges at Oniju, no longer restrained, no longer uncertain, no longer running from himself. This isn't the man we met in Issue 1. This is what he was always meant to become. Akoni doesn't just fight back, he explodes. Every strike against Oniju carries years of pain. It tells him exactly what was taken from him: his memories, his loved ones, his peace. As they fight, Oniju declares that Akoni was never destined for peace, and he showed Akoni what he truly was. Akoni tells him he's not a coward. Their exchange reveals that Akoni is no longer just a weapon, no longer just a soldier, no longer just a victim, and all Oniju has done to him till the present has only set him on the path of becoming what he was destined for, an Orisha. The battlefield falls quiet as Akoni impales Oniju right through the chest with his bare hand, ending him. The surviving supernatural soldier stares at him, and they all bow to him as their new leader. This wasn't just a victory, it was a transformation. On the last page of issue 5, high above the battlefield and outside the compound, we see the Seeker again. He's observing the whole incident unfold, and with calm certainty he speaks. Very interesting. And guys, that was the ending of issue 5 of Amotekun. Oniju finally met his match with the awakened Akoni, and in the end, he was defeated. It's been quite an explosive story so far. The issue closes with the Echo Knight called the Seeker, hinting that there may be even more story to come. I really enjoyed the mix of African folklore in this comic series. I discovered new mythological elements from different parts of West Africa, which is quite a brilliant inclusion by the writer. That said, I do wish the pacing towards the ending of the current story arc had been handled a bit better. For me, things started to feel a bit rushed once Akoni returned from the pool. I think the story could have benefited from one or two additional issues before the final confrontation with Oniju, but of course, that may simply come down to time and resources during production. But for now, that's going to be a wrap for the coverage of this series called Amotekun. If you've enjoyed the story, consider subscribing to my channel for more read-throughs and breakdown of African comics. Leave a like on the video, and if you've enjoyed it, I'll see you in the next one.